there's a land far, far away. That there's a land far, far away. The King of Kings and the Lord of Lords sit upon his throne and he rules us.
The Abyssinians are or were a reggae group from Jamaica. They were formed in 1969, and from the stuff that I've read after that, they had quite a complicated history. They've had breaks, they've had reunions, they've had times when there's been more than one version of the band going on, and they may or may not still exist. In that period of time, they have managed to release 3 studio albums. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the first of the 3 studio albums by the Abyssinians, and it's my first encounter, I think, with them. I may have heard stuff of theirs on compilations, and I have heard several reggae compilations in the past. So the title track is a track called Satta Massagana. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And as a single, it had a confusing history, so it was released in several different versions by the band and the label that owned the recordings or various other things. And this was their first single, and it was a huge success, and that was in 1971. The album has had a similarly, possibly even more so, confusing history. So there was an unofficial release in 1975, an official release in 1976. Through 1977 and 1978, it was released by 3 labels as Forward Onto Zion, so a different name, but broadly, probably mostly the same songs. It was also released in the United States as Satta, and the track listings vary, and mostly that's the order of the tracks, but there are occasional. There's at least one version that had a different track and dropped one off, I think. I feel like the list that I'm using, Acclaimed Music, deals with these problems relatively well. It's very confusing when you have albums that are basically the same album, but with different variants. This sort of practice seems to have somewhat died out these days and been replaced by the idea of deluxe versions and super deluxe versions and remastered versions and things like that, rather than releasing in different territories under different names and with different album covers and things like that. So let's actually get onto the review. This is reggae. It feels similar in some ways to Bob Marley and others of the time, not surprisingly, because we're into 70s reggae. It's not got the same presence as Bob Marley. I often try and avoid doing direct head-to-head comparisons in my reviews because that always depends on you knowing the stuff that I'm referring to. I think most people have got some awareness of Bob Marley. So it's different, but quite similar in a lot of ways. There's some nice harmonies in it, which is their particular USP. And it's nicely varied in its approaches. It's, as you would imagine, for good reggae, it's got this kind of laid-back, relaxed feel. And there's some nice playing in it. It's well put together, I would say. Most of the singing is in English. There are bits in an Ethiopian language, and it's strongly Rastafarian in nature. So at times that sounds like it's Christian, or possibly, particularly because there's an emphasis on Old Testament. The ethos is often the same, so when there's stuff about morality and things, that's often very much a similar thing. But there's a focus on, it is a separate religion. It is a focus on Ethiopia and Emperor Haile Selassie and black rights. Just a few quick terms that are used. Yah is a name for God that is used in Rastafaria. Zion is the promised land, and I'm not quite sure how that translates. And Babylon is, I don't remember that being used on this album, but it's particularly about establishment, particularly governments that may be not strongly in favour of the black community. So there's, for example, there's a track here called No Yah Today, so that means Yar is spelled with the J. That means no God today. There's another track called I and I happen to know that that's Jamaican patois or whatever it is for we, or sometimes just for I. I didn't detect stuff in here about marijuana, which often seems to find itself into reggae, particularly because it's considered as a sacrament in Rastafarian. I've done a lot of talking about Rastafarian. Let's get back to the album. I quite enjoyed it. I like a nice bit of reggae, and I would say that's exactly what this is. This is a nice bit of reggae. It's kind of gentle stuff. It's nice for a kind of relaxed Saturday afternoon, which is exactly where I am. So, yeah, it's good. And at this point, I would invite you, as always, to let me know what you think. So please talk to me through the comments box, and that's it from me for now.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Work and death.